The briefing is the laughing stock of modern news media, at least the legacy media anyway, as Jen Psaki continues to fail downward and drive an audience under, well, almost 50% of what Rachel Maddow was able to carry. This not only registers as a lack of talent, it's a lack of believability, because after all, this was the press secretary of the most corrupt administration in the history of the world. Well, at least the modern world, or in the last 4 years. Now she tries to mock the existing press secretary, who has actually a sense of credibility and is somebody who can defend the truth at all costs rather than obfuscate and run away from it, which was something Jen Psaki was known for. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the big bet by PMSNBC and the new primetime show, The Briefing, and just how badly it's losing. Here we go. Now, after that terribly long introduction, let me just slim this down. Subscribe to my channel. I absolutely need it. Double check you're still subscribed, and then we'll move right on to the best guest on the planet. That's right. It's Kevin Apollo. How you doing, Kevin?
What's going on, brother? So, we're talking about my favorite, the circle back girl.
Oh, yeah. Nobody's circling back to her show, no matter what kind of hairstyle she has. And at least she's ditched the pink commie hat. So, for what that's worth. Doug, have you watched any of this? Have you've seen any of the clips? I mean, they're embarrassing.
Oh, they are embarrassing. Oh, I watched her. Oh, gosh, I can't remember what she was talking about. But it's one of those, I go, girl, don't you realize the internet is forever? You're complaining about something that the current administration is saying, and you claim that it was a good thing when it was your guy doing it. What's going on? What's going on? But isn't it?
I think you're talking about self-awareness, which Jen Psaki lacks, for lack of a better way to say it. Their big bet on Jen Psaki's new primetime show, The Briefing. Don't remind people of your failure, your spectacular failure for a little over 2 years, leaving us with the lady with the mop head hairdo. She's losing across the board. This story comes from PJ Media's Rick Moran, and it was all the way back on May 10th, but we're covering it now because things got worse, Kevin. Got worse. We just talked about this, a week ago, maybe a little over a week ago, and consider this. This show was being launched out of the end of the 100-day coverage of Rachel Maddow. They needed somebody to fill 4 days of the week, because if you're Rachel Maddow and you get paid $25 million a year, you only actually work 1 day. No, seriously, it's 1 day a week gig. I would kill for that job.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's good work if you can get it, right?
That's right. But look, I mean, when you look at this, and this is where your intellect is going to help us out. Last March, PMSNBC went through a big shakeup with several hosts being reassigned or fired. Right? You were talking about one of them, right? Joey Reid, and your love for her and your deep devotion to her evening program. That you made sure never to watch. But the network's been bleeding viewers since 2024 and the election. They had a little bit of a bounce back, but nothing substantial. In fact, overall ratings, which I've covered here on this channel, were really, really bad. But they've been pretty desperate to stop this. They did the 100-day Rachel Maddow thing for the 5 nights a week that normal people would work. And then she stepped away back to the other projects things. So she'll be there every Monday, but then it's Jen Psaki with some kind of a briefing. Now, she may be talking about going around and, either pantsing everybody or giving them a wedgie, but not news. Okay. And yet she's out there trying to pretend she has news. And then the MSNBC public relations report, you can see that hosting a show at 9 p.m. is a tremendous opportunity, responsibility to speak to an audience of millions of viewers. Not anymore. And I take that with a level of seriousness and responsibility that I think it warrants. That's what she told USA Today, another incredibly compromised news media organization. But maybe she believed all of this when it started. that's not where we ended up.
I'm sure she did. There are dozens of us. Dozens!
Many dozens. But Maddow was a bomb thrower, and Psaki is far from restrained in her presentation. But that's not what the left's hysterics want to see. They want blood. And Psaki, while a rabid partisan, clearly, he's just the kind of partisan she is, isn't quite tolerable here in the U.S. as a communist or socialist, doesn't deliver the hammer blows quite like Maddow. Well, no, she doesn't. I mean, she's a ginger after all, and so you usually think, nicer things about her. I don't. But look, the Nielsen ratings were rough. The first ratings, official ratings that came out of that, gave her already a fall in the first two episodes of the briefing. The first episode, which may have benefited from curiosity, which we talked about in our previous video, I should say, it had 1.2 million viewers with 139,000 in the coveted demographic, the 25 to 54, the people you want who have money. So that was the first one. But then it fell off. Then it fell off. You had Maddow on many nights drawing more than 2 million viewers. Now you have just over 1 million. And by the time you start to truly fall apart, Kevin, and this is what I want you to react to, is that she slid significantly on the following day to 1 million and 65,000 viewers in the demo.
Gosh.
During her first week in this job, Kevin. During her first week, she averaged 92,000 viewers that were in the demo. She's a 47, almost 50% decline in the demo in her first week on the job. And those numbers aren't going to improve. If anything, they'll slide from 2 million to under 1 million, Kevin. I need your reaction. What do you think's going to happen with Jen Psaki, and do you think it's going to happen for very long?
I don't see how you can let it happen for very long. I listen, we know these guys love to make sure they always fail upward. So I'm sure they're working around the clock to find a viable enough of an excuse to let her get out of there gracefully. But at the end of the day, they don't. How much longer are they? How much longer do they have the NBC banner to coast off of? It's not too much longer now, right?
Yeah, no, and again, I mean, they changed that Spinco name to something more official. It starts with a V, like Valorant, Variant, or something like that. It's something dumb, gotcha. But not very much longer, Kevin. So yeah, I think they aren't going to be able to coast off of Comcast for very much longer. What do you think?
This is listen. This is like when you see the alien explode out of John Hurt's chest for the first time, and you go, "I think he can make it. I think he's going to be okay." Is what you said if you were bloody delusional. This is terrible. This is terrible. Isn't even the word. How did you? Your first week, like, that's when everybody's the most curious. Oh, what's she gonna do? What's it gonna be like? I gotta check it out. They put it on and said, nah. They everybody SpongeBob memed this. I'm gonna head out. This isn't a good look. And listen, I think we talked about it a little bit. I think this is a big part of the left's cognitive dissonance about what the world has been dealing with over the last 5 years. Why Trump won so decisively, and how people really view the Biden administration. Between you and me, I'm sure neither one of us is shocked that this happened. So it's kind of humorous that they're shocked that this happened. And then you're losing the demo. Well, let's talk about what's going on with the demo. Fine, you're talking, 25 to 54. Well, what was the massive shift? The part of the reason why the defeat was so crushing is that progressives lost the youth. They lost the youth, and on top of that, they lost essentially any man who considers himself a man abandoned the left. So there's a massive chunk of your demo right out the box that really has no interest in coming back. We haven't even begun to touch on the obvious trust issues that have come from being anything remotely associated with this administration.
Yeah, especially Joe Scarborough, who didn't earn any or ingratiate himself with anybody that would even consider themselves a centrist. I
Yeah.
mean, when you look at this, it's hard not to realize that demographically, as you pointed out, the younger folks that are starting to have money now that they can't spend on a house because the certain party, not to be named here, found ways to make it impossible to get to home ownership and kept somebody in charge of the Fed that is not doing them any favors as far as interest rates go. Regardless, they're paying attention now, and there is not a growing demographic of Paul Mescals or Pedro Pascals out there. That doesn't exist. It's a fantasy to bring all these feminized men in front of an audience that's going to reject them. And to be fair, I mean, Jen Psaki isn't all that engaging in the first place because nobody believes her from any word that she says. Again, because of the poor job she did at her previous job. But it's also the fact that, you know, they're on the wrong side of almost every issue, and they're certainly on the wrong side of investigating actual stories. They're happy to tell a spin or a narrative. They don't want to do the actual work. And this is a big problem for MSNBC in the future. Kevin, do you know why?
Why?
They don't have a news organization. They're going to have to actually build and spend money on a news organization. So that actually means they can't afford Rachel Maddow or any real talent. They can't.
Well, and what's fascinating is as they have to rebuild this and hope that they can forge a new media profile, they went off and brought over the losers who gave us, what was it, CNN Go or CNN Plus or whatever it was, that thing that failed so awfully that we all kind of forgot it was there. It was supposed to be, supposed to be built off of the back of Rick Hume. And so again, importing losers so that they fail up. This, I don't know. It doesn't look great for them. And again, their choices in who's going to be the face of their networks. Like you said, they can't afford Maddow. Let's be honest. Maddow only draws the audience that she draws because she created a brand for herself, separate from MSNBC. MSNBC was just her platform she used to turn herself into a star in that space. But when you looked at the rest of that network, no one was really drawing any ratings of anything of any significance. Joy Reid was a lightning rod for controversy. If she had a take, it was you had to go, well, what is it today? Is it super destructive or is it super moronic? Oh, it's a little bit of both. Oh God, what's his name? Lawrence O'Donnell. The only thing anybody remembers about his show is when he had a meltdown because someone was hammering in the background. And I only remember that because I happened to have it on the night it happened, and then when I went to work the next day, they were talking about it on Opie and Anthony. That's how long ago that was.
But here's the funniest thing, right? The only show in the top 15 for ratings for news programming, right, in the cable news genre, okay? The only show that appears in that isn't Fox, because the first 14 positions are Fox. It's why they expanded it from 10, was so they could try to get somebody in there that wasn't Fox. To the 15 spots, Rachel Maddow. And now that's only going to be one day a week, which means on average that number is going to fall. And Jen Psaki, just put this in your mind. Jen Psaki fell 50, 54, 52, somewhere like that percent from what Rachel Maddow was getting to view her show on her first Tuesday. And then from that point, she's fallen 50% from that.
Dude, again, this is embarrassing. But again, who was shocked by this? You know what? Since we did the last story, we get essentially confirmation that Biden's health was even worse than what we were told. So now people are being forced to ask the real questions. Hey, we thought this guy was compromised. Now we know this guy was compromised. We now we know it was both mentally and physically. Who was actually steering the ship? You're his press secretary. You're supposed to be his right hand. You are his voice. every time anybody asked you a hard question, you either did your best to obfuscate, or you said, "I'll circle back to that." Or took a shot at your predecessor, who was, as far as I'm concerned, one of the most prepared people I've ever seen. Showed up with a binder, only to be outdone why can't I think of her name? The new press secretary, who was like an information freight train. She doesn't mince words. She tells you what she has to tell you in as plain language as possible, and is ready to throw down if you want to try to refute what she's saying. If you're trying to tag a partisan spin on it. So
Yeah, yeah. I don't think anybody has the ability to take down Carolyn Levitt. I mean, she's just too spot on. She's
yeah,
already in front of the question, and this is what I have appreciated about the last couple of Trump press secretaries is they're already in front of the press as far as the questions go, and they don't need a notebook to refer back to see what the company line is. She doesn't. She already has it in her head if there is a company line, or if she's just responding off the top of her head, which is more likely.
yeah.
So
So
no, you're right. I mean, look, if you're going to lose, and this you and I talked about this before, the briefing is losing to cable rerun shows.
yeah,
Whether it be Friends, Seinfeld, Everybody Loves Raymond, Bob's Burgers, The King of Queens, and that 70s show. In fact, it lost to a reality show called My Strange Addiction on TLC. TLC is beating PMSNBC. That's all I have to say about that.
well,
It's not going to get better. You're going to continue to see these numbers go down. I don't think there's a trap door set for Jen. But as I asked you before, I'm going to ask you again: is she going to make it a year?
yeah. I almost would say yes, just out of look. At this point, where do you have to go? We know they can't afford Maddow. And at this point, anything less is you're just admitting defeat. And we know these folks don't like to admit defeat. They double triple down and just hire a brand new PR firm to shop out the new message. So I think unless Jen goes, my reputation as in shambles as it is can't take this shellacking anymore. I think she guts out at least a year. Guts out at least a year, and then says, "I'm going to go work on other projects while MSNBC transitions onto its new platform." I don't know what do you listen. This is like I don't know. You're taking the pile of manure and switching it over to the pile of garbage. What's there isn't there's just really no place else to go but further down.
Yeah, I look. I think you're right. She might make it a year, but she may not. Dude, they need somebody in this spot to compete. They really do. They don't have it. I mean, we talked at length about Fox's news as Fox News and their ratings as opposed to any of the other cable news broadcasters. But this show was really this is the hour that they had that they could win, every single day, every week. They can't do it anymore.
No, they can't. They
And
can't.
and at this point, I just say, either get rid of Maddow or make her work 5 days a week, and find some place for this little redheaded girl to go serve Wendy's somewhere, because I think she'd be really good as a Wendy's spokesperson. Anyway, any final thoughts, Kevin, before we get to the questions at hand for the audience?
No, listen. At the end of the day, yeah, we watched Chucky Doll give it another swing, and uh, it didn't go well. But it never went well for her. She was probably the least engaging, least charismatic press secretary we've seen in the modern era. And listen, when I can sit down and go, she has a charisma that rivals Spiro Agnew. You're in trouble. It's I almost feel bad for MSNBC because where do you go from here? Where do you go from here? But like I've said previously, I kind of have an addiction to Schadenfreude, so I'm gonna sit back and just kind of watch this play out, and and go, that's just kind of how the cookie crumbles. Because culturally, I think people wanting to watch My Strange Addiction or 20 to 30-year-old sitcoms kind of tells you where they're at with the modern progressive left. The sanity is back in fashion.
Yeah, that's true. I would love to have some sanity, and I think a lot of people are actually shopping for that, which is why they're finding new media like us folks here, and pretty soon your own channel in July. I'm so looking forward to that. But I'm also looking forward to even more ratings coming out about the briefing as it continues to fall off somewhere between 9 and 13% in total viewers, and the demo just like it did this last week. In fact, MSNBC averaged less than 532,000 total viewers and only 47,000 in the demo the last full week. Not this week, but the last full week. So just keep in mind, we're going to keep track of these news things for you because, first of all, I think we get the Schadenfreude out of it, and Kevin and I exist off of Schadenfreude. But how about you? Let us know your thoughts about PMSNBC and Jen Psaki and whether or not you would follow any of these mainstream clowns around anymore. And let us know if there is a news show that you actually trust or something that you enjoy that any of these news organizations try to put out for you to consume. And finally, do you find yourself watching people on YouTube more? Because I do. I watch Megyn Kelly more often than I watch anything that's legacy media. I watch Trish Regan. I watch more. I watch Brett Cooper more than I watch the mainstream media. That's saying something. And she's awesome. I love her to death. And I really hope she has a smooth pregnancy because she's really pregnant now. But anyway, all I want to say is do follow us. Follow my friend Kevin Apollo over on X. He's a spirited guy, very funny over there. And look out for his YouTube channel. And on that note, as we always say, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, and until next time, see ya! Certainly not on MSNBC. That was fun.